Houston out of the gate, as the newest organization in professional sports or professional football, they've done a great job in this first 20 something years at having a successful football team, right? They've been to the playoffs a lot.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It's a teaching tutorial Thursday. How about Jack Easterby? One of the most unique backgrounds of any NFL executive I've ever heard. Actually, it's somewhat controversial in terms of his stint with the Houston Texans. I wanted to hear what he had to say about it. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Really looking forward to this conversation. It's interesting. We were just saying right before we started the interview, it's hard to believe I've never had a chance to meet him with as long as he's been a part of the NFL, but it's Jack Easterby, who's actually got something new and cool going on with college these days. I think people remember all the stuff he did with the Patriots, and at one point was the executive vice president of football operations for the Houston Texans for a few years. Jack, really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Thank you so much.
What's up, Ross? I see you got your Patriots helmet in the background there, man.
Yes.
Good to get some time together. Thanks so much for letting me join you.
Yeah, I think I took all my helmets except the Browns. Belichick traded me to Cleveland in 2006. I was there for like a month, and then they cut me, and I was like, you know what? I don't even want it. I didn't even ask for it. I was like, I'm fine with it. It's funny because I know you're doing some stuff in the college space now, Jack,
Yep.
which I want to get to. I didn't realize that that's actually where you started. I had no idea till I was doing some research for the interview that you're kind of going back to your roots there at South Carolina. So if you could, I guess, start at the start with kind of how you got in at South Carolina. I know you're from down there.
Yep.
And then just kind of go through your career, because it's one of the like they could do a 30 for 30 about it. It's one of the most interesting paths that I've ever seen for anyone to get, to some of the roles that you had.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. It is unique, and I embrace that. I think, whenever you play sports growing up, right, you want to be a part of sports teams, and you want to hang out and get paid being a part of sports groups for a living. And so that's kind of was always my dream, to be a part of, sports teams, whether that's college and professional. And growing up, it's really interesting. I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, and in the late 90s, University of South Carolina really took a huge jump up on the athletic scale because we joined the SEC, right? And so I think what happened was, all of a sudden, being from Columbia, not really knowing a ton about major college sports, Rick Pitino starts rolling to town with his good Kentucky teams, or, all these obviously iconic football programs start coming to town. And so I got the sports bug young, growing up there in Columbia and going down to the university, watching games, and then played basketball and golf growing up, wanted to continue my career. So went to Newberry College, a small school just outside of Columbia, got a chance to play both of those sports there. And then when I got done, obviously I felt like, okay, neither one of these I'm going to be good enough to play and get paid to do it. So I got a chance to, a mentor of mine hired me in Jacksonville in the Jaguars organization to do some salary cap kind of internship and just kind of a catch-all internship at the end of my college career. And man, that was really where I saw, really, to be honest, how awesome sports careers really were, right? The opportunity to help a team, got a chance to be a part of a training camp, got a chance to see all the things that go into not only a football operation, but just an awesome collective group of people pulling in the same direction, right? Trying to win and do the right things. And so left that internship, came back to Columbia, and the University of South Carolina hired me as kind of a director of academics services. The actual title was learning specialist right out of school. So I did study hall prompting, and my office was kind of in the study hall area for the athletes. And basically the coaches would ask me to do study hall at night, travel with different teams, help them, with what they were doing in relationship to their character development, their onboarding of their young athletes as they transition to college. And it really became kind of a new career that at that time wasn't as popular. Now, obviously, there's tons of student athlete services that are available for, athletes when they come into school. But at that time, we only had really 2 or 3 people around each team that was helping onboard, equip, inspire, athletes to make sure that they were doing the right things. And so, really, really cool experience there at South Carolina. They made a role for me. I ran camps in the summer for the basketball team, and just a really cool experience there for a long time. And then one of our players, Ryan Suckup, was drafted Mr. Irrelevant for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was a kicker out there. And he called me one day and he said, "Hey, man, why don't you come to Kansas City and come speak to the team? I want to introduce you to Scott Pioli." And so I flew out there, got to know Scott, and Scott and Ryan brought me back and forth to Kansas City, from Kansas City to Columbia, and then eventually made a role for me in Kansas City. Was there 2 years, and we went through some tough stuff there, really tough stuff there at Kansas City. And then Coach Belichick hired me in New England, and we had a great run there where I started kind of doing one role, and then we transitioned through several other roles, and then I was blessed to be in Houston. So, I think each team needed different things, right? I had a different kind of vision for what my role would be and how I could help them. But gosh, I enjoyed each spot, learned a ton from each spot, and feel like, as I've grown and learned, I think athletics has also changed, a lot. And so I think it's been one of those where I don't know if I really saw this being what I would do, but, there's been cool opportunities and ways I could help teams along the way, and that's been really fun.
So, just looking at, obviously researching for it, it looks like initially for the Chiefs, I don't know if the role changed, but initially for the Chiefs, you were the team chaplain. So, at what point in that did you get ordained, like as a minister? Like when did that part of it happen?
Well, ordination depends on the denomination, right? I mean, some have a long process. I was ordained more in a non-denominational church, so I was blessed to do that when I was living in Columbia. And we actually had a Bible study in Columbia that was really cool on Monday nights for all the athletes there, where me and several other people on campus chipped in, and we led a Bible study. Kind of had like a mini FCA. You've probably heard of Fellowship of Christian
Yeah, of
Athletes.
course.
Yeah, so we had a cool event there. And then when I went to Kansas City, it was really fun because, every week they have a chapel for the players, just to encourage them along the way. And they also have different meetings throughout the year where they'll help, encourage guys, whether it's relocation or potentially helping them, transition to a new city. There was a lot of different roles that they, had me help with, and was really, really blessed to do that. And I think more than, just in the ministry role, it was really just caring for people, right? Helping athletes who are human. So many people fast forward through the part that these guys are really people, and they are trying to relocate family members and, change cities and do all those things. That was kind of an area that I really focused on to help love people and help people as they kind of transitioned into new teams. So, yeah, it was really cool. So Kansas City was so many good people. It was a tough thing we went through there, but there was a lot of really good humans. Romeo Crennel, and obviously I mentioned Ryan Suckup and Brady Quinn and Matt Castle. And, we had a lot of really, really good humans there. That locker room was filled with some jokesters too. Dustin Colquitt always used to have us laughing, and a few other guys, but really enjoyed Kansas City.
It's funny. I guess when you play for as many teams as I did, like Romeo Crennel was my coach in Cleveland. I know Brady Quinn well, and Castle and I were teammates in New England. Actually, the only game I really played for the Patriots, Castle was out there at quarterback. So it's kind of funny. So then you get the job with the Patriots. What was the connection there with Belichick to get that job? Because that, at least by title, that's when you started to really do a bunch of different things. You were there for a while. They were going to Super Bowls, but he doesn't just hire anybody. So how did that kind of come through?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Castle. I'll do this. I'll say this forever. Like I've been asked a lot of times about glue guys and funny guys and locker room guys and who's the best leader and all this. I mean, Matt Castle is one of the funniest humans. I mean, I'm just telling you, I know you know this from playing with him. Like, if you sit him at a lunch table, the table is going to be laughing 100%. And you know that. Yeah, so we finished up in 2012. We had a rough season, and they were kind of resetting. Andy got the job, and when Andy got the job, I had a great meeting with him, and he let me stay on. And I was kind of heading towards staying with the Chiefs. They were resetting. Had just hired Doug Peterson and David Culley, and that group there was coming in. And Bill reached out to me, actually from the recommendation of Brian Dayball. Brian was the coordinator for us in Kansas City. And he said, hey, obviously the Patriots were going through a tough situation there. And he said, hey, I think Jack could help us. And so Bill reached out to Andy and asked if I could come from Kansas City to New England, and that the rest was history. It was a blessing. Bill brought me in. We got to know each other, and he had a role that he envisioned for me. And then we were able to move our family to Foxborough, and it was really, really cool, really good experience. Being from Columbia, South Carolina, I'd never lived in Foxborough, Mass, but gosh, the people there, the way they love that team. Obviously, we were successful, but learned so much from everybody there, from ownership all the way down to people in the locker room that were there a short period of time and some that were there a long period of time. Just feel like I was really blessed to be a part of that.
All right, so then I'm assuming Bill O'Brien was the connection to the Texans. When he got down there, he wanted you to come with him.
Well, so Bill, I did not work with Bill when I was in New England. He had already left.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I got to Josh McDaniels was the coordinator, obviously offensively when I got to New England, and then when I left New England, Bill and Nick Caserio were close, and Bill also knew a lot of other people that I knew with the Patriots. So yeah, he was one of them. And then the McNairs, I had known the McNair family. Bob McNair was a big Gamecock. He went to the University of South Carolina, and
Oh,
had a huge influence on the culture there, and gave a lot of resources to the University of South Carolina. And so I had a chance to meet him a couple times when he had come and spoke to the team there, and we just had some South Carolina connections. So yeah, I didn't work with Bill when we were in New England, or when I was in New England. We kind of missed. He left to go to Penn State before I got there. But yeah, the McNair family was great. Really enjoyed that transition working for them, and learned a ton in Houston.
so Houston, you were like running the show, right? Executive Vice President of Football Operations for a few years. That's pretty unbelievable. I mean, what was that? It's funny, Jack. I mean, I think about coaching a little bit, but if someone said to me front office or coaching, I definitely would have been a front office guy.
Right.
I like the business stuff. I like the contract stuff. I like that part of it. So curious what that experience was like.
Yeah, I think the thing I learned, Ross, and I think that you know this, and most people know this, and I did not know this, is that I think every organization is in their own version of iteration, right? Like I think that, whether it's what the Steelers are going through now, obviously, in their, quest to continue to establish certain things in their organization, or obviously what the new organizations are going through, like recently Jacksonville hiring their new coach or whatever. Each place is going through their own iteration, right? And I think what for newer teams, so like Carolina and Jacksonville and Houston, I think that a lot of that is figuring out the systems that are going to lead them to being successful in relationship to how they operate, right? Whether that's their facility or whether that's just who's going to, help them with medical care, what hospital are they going to use, how are they going to onboard, staff members? How do they make sure financially that they're in a good place to, how they're going to structure cap and cash contracts, all of that stuff, because they don't have the precedent, right? The younger teams don't necessarily have the precedent. So one of the things I learned quickly was when you're talking about, the New England Patriots or the Pittsburgh Steelers or even some of those other, New York teams, New York Jets, obviously the Bills, you've got a long runway of organizational history, right? Where they've been able to, whether it was previous GMs or obviously just lessons of the past that they've chronicled over the years to kind of give them a modus operandi, right? How do they function? How do they do everything that they do, from game day staff to, again, how do they travel to who goes where and what, all the things. And I think Houston out of the gate, as the newest organization in professional sports or professional football, they've done a great job in this first 20 something years at having a successful football team, right? They've been to the playoffs a lot. Obviously, they've had some really good teams that have won in the playoffs and made it to the second round several times. They dominated there for a while in the AFC South, right? The question became, okay, the bigger organization, right, and the overall themes of the different systems that need to be built for sustainability. How are those being done? And so I was very fortunate when I got there, having been at the Patriots and having been at the Chiefs, and seeing two organizations, two good families that ran their organization well with the Hunts and the Crafts, and then watching how they chose to run their franchises. And I learned a ton that helped me once I got to Houston. So now, okay, here's some things that I think we can continue to do and grow and see, how they operate. But I would say that was one thing. You mentioned, that the position there was one thing that was, I was naive to going in, that, these organizations are so different. I mean, each one is so different, as playing for several. It's just, they're just not the same. They all have different workflows. They have different people in different spots, a lot of different job descriptions, right? That people do within the building to make the thing go. And so, again, Houston was a real blessing because it was so unique.
I want to get to what you're doing now. One question before that. Your tenure in Houston was very polarizing, for whatever reason, right? And I don't know, I'm not there. I don't know. Why do you think that was, Jack? Do you think it was because of your unique background? Like, what do you think it was about your tenure that was, and obviously the team wasn't having a ton of on-field success when you were there, but a lot of that kind of predates when you were there. Just kind of your thoughts on why your tenure was so polarizing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think these cities love their teams, right? I mean, every city wants their team to be competing in January this time of year, right? For a championship. And so anything that is going on that potentially may be in between each city and their idea of success, they're going to scrutinize it. And that's a good thing because it shows the passion of each fan base. I think, we were in Houston, there's a lot of transition, there was just a lot of transition. And I think naturally transition draws skepticism because it just doesn't always begat trust. It doesn't make people think, hey, this is what is going on. I can trust what's going on. I mean, I was just talking about the Steelers earlier, and you think about, the consistency over the years of their front offices, right? It makes you want to trust it. You know what it is. You know what to expect. You know what, who's going to show up in relationship to their top roles. And that obviously gives a lot of consistency and good vibes off to the city. And I think during my time in Houston, we had a lot of transition. 2018, the owner transitioned. Bob passed away, and he was just such a great legacy for the city of Houston and sports. And I think made a tremendous, difference in Houston sports history by landing the Texans, by bringing them there. So when he transitions, that's a huge thing. And then obviously a lot of the staff members transitioned at the front in the front office. And some of those, obviously, I knew well. Some of them I didn't know as well. So I think whenever you have a lot of transition, and then to your point, a unique background, I think that, when you're leading people, it's all about trying to get people unified around a mission, right? And then making sure that you can be effective and efficient in that mission. That's what it's about. And so I think the unique background I had actually allowed me to do that well. It allowed me to get people unified around the Houston Texans resetting and getting, getting a foundation built for what they needed to become, once all the other football things fell in place. But I think it was that transition piece. And then I also think, there was a lot of people that, quite frankly, we had to transition out of there. And so that was probably one of the other things I would say that was really hard for, people to understand on the outside. But fans love football, man. And so if they like, hey, this is in between me and where I want to be, there's going to be criticism, and justifiably so. That comes with it, right? I mean, that's just a part of it.
All right, so that leads me to now. What are you doing now? I know you're kind of getting back into the college space a little bit. Is it consulting, or give us the breakdown of what you're looking to help programs with at this point?
Well, yeah, I would say, the last, year has really been a blessing for our family. Moved back to the East Coast, really got a chance to connect with a lot of people that, from when I first started in sports, as I mentioned, at University of South Carolina, several universities in the Southeast. And as you know, I mean, now they're paying real money for these college athletes, right? I mean, these guys are blessed. I wish, some of the people that I was at South Carolina with a long time ago. I'm like, man, I wish these guys would have gotten paid these same numbers because, but it's been really cool to reconnect with a lot of college administrators and people that are trying to get this right. I mean, it's a complicated initiative, right? You're talking about a landmark case that's right now in the courts, right, which hasn't been totally finalized. And then you're talking about landmark decisions within these conferences from a media rights situation and how those are going to be disseminated. So there's a lot of new things that people are trying to figure out in that college space that they haven't had to do before. So I've been blessed to have one of my mentors for a long period of time was Craig Littlepage, who was the AD at Virginia. And he's been really encouraging to me, connecting me with people, whether it's commissioners or other people who need to know what does it look like to do an actual salary cap, or what does it look like to, set up a pay chart for a revenue share system, or potentially what does it look like to build a roster around real, sincere financial terms that are going to be hard and fast dollars, right? And so, yeah, I've been really fortunate to use those relationships, but then also have some new friendships that have emerged so that I can help some of these college guys figure out how to pay these guys.
Well, I am happy for them. I know a lot of those kids, and I even know some of their backgrounds, and I know it's still. I hear the people that are still having a tough time with it, and I kind of explain to them like, listen, a lot of these guys aren't going to play in the NFL. Like this is life altering for them, and I'm absolutely thrilled knowing a lot of their family backgrounds that they can get this money. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was actually telling somebody the other day, and you mentioned being friends with Brady Quinn. I mean, think about it. If you play at a Power Four school and you have a successful career, you don't have to be the best player on the field, right? But if you have a successful career, whether it's interacting with conference commissioners, going to a couple media days, right? Meeting some of the sponsors and donors and people that are surrounding these programs now, man, you really have a good opportunity to go and be a successful, professional, whether it's in football or anything. I mean, man, there's so many blessings now with some of these conferences having their own networks, and obviously the jobs that come from that, or maybe even potentially just the alumni constituency now with the money coming directly from alumni right into, obviously the pockets of some of the players. I mean, just the connections that come from that can be life-changing, right? For some of these athletes, even if they're not going to play in the NFL or play in a professional sporting league. I was talking to somebody last week and I said, I think it is so much better for the sports profession to have guys that were exposed to this stuff at 16, 17 years old. Because you think about it, we used to have situations where guys were transitioning into pro football, right? And they had never left cities before. They had never moved before. They had never established their inner circle before. And so a lot of times, you get to Foxborough or wherever for the first time, and you're like, oh man, I better make sure, my agent and my financial advisor and whoever that is has got me set up right. Well, now you back that up. Guys are doing that at 16, 17 years old. And so maybe if you transfer a couple times And obviously you've got a financial base that maybe from playing 2 or 3 years, man, you by age 21, you should have some good life skills and hopefully a little bit of a nest egg to be able to make that transition more successfully.
Love that. Love that part of it for sure. Jack, really appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You guys are awesome, man. Appreciate you.
All right, let's dive into the news. But first, we got the holiday weekend coming up, which means you guys should all be buying lots of Labatt Blue Light and then getting gear just for doing that. With Buy Beer, Get Gear, you go to their website, upload your receipt photo, bang, you're getting incredible stuff like this mini fridge I have, or the incredible backpack cooler, which I'm obsessed with right now. Buy beer, get gear, rewards.labattusa.com. If you haven't done it yet, why not? Buy beer, get gear, rewards.labattusa.com. Listen, I am all about giving people a platform to be able to hear their views, their perspective on things, as opposed to just what was leaked to us in the media. Appreciate that conversation with Jack Easterby. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It is by far the best way to tell someone how you feel about them. Can't highly recommend it enough. Myfrontpagestory.com. Backofficescheduler.com. HumanHeadNYC.com. Sporticulture. Pizza Boy Brewing.